And we welcome back to our studio Northampton's erstwhile poet laureate, Rich Michelson, who has with him and us today a very special guest because we want you to know about this upcoming Poetry in Motion. Rich Michelson.
Right. You didn't start with the welcome to NPR.
You want that part? Ready?
I want that part.
Okay, ready?
That's all right.
Welcome to NPR, Northampton Poetry Radio, with erstwhile poet laureate, Rich Michelson.
I just love your dulcet tones. I miss that if you don't start. So I want to let everybody know about a poetry reading coming up this Thursday at the Botel Day Poetry Center on Smith College at 7 o'clock. You should be there. You should definitely be there. Do not miss it. My guest today, John Hennessy, will be reading. John, many people in the Valley know, of course, he is he's a treasure for us here in the Valley. He has a brand new collection, his third collection after Coney Island Pilgrims and Bridge and Tunnel. His new collection is called Exit Garden State. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm holding it up so you all can see it here. They did a beautiful job, Lost Horse Press. John, many people know, is the poetry editor of The Common, which is a wonderful literary magazine. They publish some of my work, so they have good taste. You know that right away. And he also teaches at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I also want to say, beyond the 3 books that you've written, you're also an amazing translator. And we have, you've translated with Ostap Kin, is that, help me?
That's right.
Of a new orthography, also by Lost Horse Press, a selection of poems by
Serhii Jadon.
Okay, see, and that was a finalist for the PEN Award for Poetry and Translation.
And what language are you translating from?
Ukrainian.
And we also have this amazing anthology,
Babin Yar.
Ukrainian Poets Respond. And I want to get to your own poetry, but let's just start because of the world we're in, because of the news.
Yeah.
You tell me how you came to start translating Ukrainian poets,
Sure.
and do you speak the language?
No, I do not speak the language. But first, let me say thanks, Rich and Bill, for having me on. No, I came to translate Ukrainian through my editing work, actually. I took poems by Serhii Jadon that were translated by Ostap Kin, who is now my good friend and translation partner. But when I took them, I said, "Do you mind if I edit?" And he said, "You're an editor. That's what I would expect you to do." So we started a professional relationship this way. I ended up publishing and editing a lot of his translations of Serhii Jadon. And then this was about 10 years ago. In 2018, he was asked by Lost Horse Press to contribute to their contemporary Ukrainian poetry series that they had just begun. They asked him to do a selected poems by Serhii Jadon. And he came to me and he said, "I want to say yes, and I want to do it with you. What will you say?" I said, "Of course, yeah, sounds great." So we started work on that in 2018. And as we were going along, Jadon's been publishing for 30 years now. So in 2018, we had over 20 years worth of work to look at. I decided the best approach would be to follow his dictates. Jadon is also a novelist, essayist, in addition to being a poet, and activist. And he divides his career in half at 2014, when this present war with Russia began, when Russia invaded the West and Crimea. The East and Donbass and Crimea. Everyone knows about the intensification of that war in 2022 3 years ago and a week. Okay. Yeah.
But it's been going on. You're listening to Northampton Poetry Radio. My guest is John Hennessy, who will be reading this Thursday, March 6th, at the Botel Day Poetry Center. That's on Smith College campus at 7 o'clock. And it can't be more timely than this, unfortunately.
Could we stop there for
poem?
1 second? I do want to hear it. That's just, absolutely want to hear some of the poetry. But what was your reaction to finding out, either last night or this morning, that President Donald Trump essentially has called for Ukraine to surrender to Russia?
Right. Yeah, I saw I saw on Friday when Zelensky went to the Oval Office, and it was an embarrassment. It was an international embarrassment.
It was also a setup, and also we should also point out that Trump set it up, did exactly what he wanted to do, and has been celebrating ever since. That's why you didn't hear from him over the weekend, because he wanted that news cycle to play out and just watch him berating Zelensky over and over and over again. There was no other story.
Yeah. Did you see
what he said? This makes great television, right? I mean, it's playing with a country.
A country, millions of people. Yes, yeah. No, and not just one country. All of NATO, all of Europe.
Read us a poem.
Okay. It's funny.
Let's start with
It sounds like
Ukrainian.
we have more time than I anticipated. I prepared this very short poem by Serhiy Zhadan. If there's more time, I will read more. This is part 8 of a 10-part poem called "We've Been Talking About War for 3 Years." Okay. On a village street, a gas pipeline has ruptured. A place of accident, a place of danger. Emergency services won't come. No one wants to drive under shelling. When you call them, they're silent, say nothing, as if they don't understand you. At the store, along with day-old bread, they sell funeral wreaths. There's no one on the street. Almost everyone has gone. No lines, neither for bread nor for wreaths.
You're listening to John Hennessy, reading from his translation of Ukrainian poetry. And you will be reading from that book, A New Orthography, this Thursday at Smith College at the Botel Day Poetry Center at 7. Please come out, show your support. You know, even I think we have a mutual friend, Ilya Kaminsky, who's from...
I don't know him
you don't
personally.
Know? Okay.
I did have dinner with him and several others, maybe 12 years ago, something like that.
Right, yeah.
Very friendly person, a great poet.
And translates a lot of Ukrainian poets. He's from there. And also talks as well, which was just bombed right after Trump announced that he was withdrawing the
military
money.
support.
But what Ilya, in the wake of that, also showed were Ukrainians writing, sharing poetry with each other. You know, that's very strong in the culture. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Can you be more specific?
You know, as far as
sharing poetry.
I mean, there's such a under bombardment.
Oh,
Ukrainians are still writing. They're still publishing. We're seeing a lot of work come out there.
Yeah. Okay, so Serhiy Zhadan, the poet whose poem I just read, has been at the front going back since 2014. Okay, he was making trips back and forth. This is when the front was, let's say, limited to the east, although I'm misusing the word. And his involvement has been intensified in the last 3 years. He's been writing dispatches from there, which have been translated into English. Okay, these are prose dispatches. So he's there. Yuri Andrukovich, who is another poet that Ostap and I have translated. Our collection of his selected poems is called Set Change, and it just came out shortly after Thanksgiving. I'll be reading from that on Thursday also. But Yuri is there, of course. No man under 60 was able to leave because of, at least in the last 3 years, except for diplomatic or for literary. Some people can leave to go do readings, but they go back.
Right, which is why Trump called Zelensky a dictator. He's not letting anybody out of the country. It's just the world has turned upside down. Did you want to read another section from that? And then I'd like to move to your own poetry.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll read another section from that long poem.
And then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about your own work.
Yeah, okay. So we've been talking about war for 3 years, okay? He's been away for 2 years. She hesitated. Change the lock or not? Will he come back or not? In the end, she didn't change the lock. Probably she unconsciously expected him to come back. He would return, and she would tell him everything. About her take on him, about her take on all of this, she would definitely tell him. And about her terminated pregnancy, which he knew nothing about these past 2 years. And when he came back, without keys actually, he lost them somewhere, she wouldn't say anything, and neither would he. In general, they decided to talk less, especially about politics. Talking about politics in our situation is the same as talking about death in a TB ward. Someone there definitely won't like it. And here, no matter what you say, everything is politics. Bread on the table, politics. The school around the corner, politics. The early spring that fills the sky with sweet smoke, also politics. Politics in gestures, politics in breathing, politics in vocal cords that need rest. They got into a fight on the third day, a fight over the shower. In the morning, he collects his stuff again. She watches the sky like milk that is about to simmer. It's too late for us to learn joy and consolation. It's too late to fix the floodgates when so much water has passed through. Life is like a house where a person is found hanging. It's too late to choose the right words. It's too late to install a new lock.
You're listening to John Hennessy. He will be reading from his books and from his translations of Ukrainian poets this Thursday at Botel Day Poetry Center. That's Thursday, March 6th at 7 o'clock. I hope you'll be there. We'll be back with John, and we'll talk about his new book, Exit Garden State, right after this.
Welcome back to Northampton Poetry Radio with Rich Michelson. Rich, the microphone is yours. We are joined in the studio by John Hennessy, who will be having his reading of these amazing translations, some of which he just shared with us, Thursday at the Smith College Patel Poetry Center, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. And also, I'm happy that John will be reading from his new book, Exit Garden State. It's an amazing book, one of my favorite books that I've read recently. You can tell from the titles of your collections, Coney Island Pilgrims, Bridge and Tunnel, Exit Garden State. Yeah. We're talking about
Jersey.
Working class. We're talking about
right.
Jersey. Well, one of the things I was surprised about, actually, you have a long
talking
list.
about Jersey.
That's right.
Yeah, you have a long list of your playlist at the back of the book, music you've listened to while you're writing.
That's right.
No Bruce Springsteen on that list,
No,
I was surprised.
I'm a bad boy. Yeah. While I love the man and respect his politics, I don't like his music.
Yeah, so you weren't listening.
Ouch.
Okay.
Ouch.
We can cut that out of the interview. Still come. We'll leave that out.
Yeah. No, I love the man. Love his politics. Absolutely. Saw him on the street in front of my mother's house. In fact, yeah.
So I want to get a chance. I mean, your work is I mean, working class. It's you're about. It's emotional. You talk about being a parent. Or some of I think the best work that I've heard about being a parent, the angst of that, and the beauty of that. You talk about your divorce in this book, which is very personal. But what I love about it, particularly for me, is it's colloquial, but the sonnets are so beautiful. I love that. But, I'm a big sonnet fan.
I know.
And
We share this.
We share
right?
that,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
using colloquial language and putting it into that form.
Right, right.
What do you feel that does
Which
for
is why
you?
we've published so many of your poems.
Right.
too.
So send colloquial sonnets, poets. You heard that. So let's. I want to make sure we have time. Let's read a poem
All right.
of
Well,
yours.
this is not a sonnet. It's slightly longer.
But he'll be reading a sonnet. You'll come, Smith College, Thursday at 7:00. I promise you.
Domestic retrograde. The hummingbird hovered in the kitchen, wrong side of the door, thudded the glass, stopped all talk. Our boys drew at the table. I chopped garlic at the counter. You filled wine glasses near the sink. The bird in place, everyone still. More fish swimming the damp June air than God of War striking a wall, stoking its foundry of anger and desire, helmeted, snake-waving Huitzilopochtli, one of your subjects, devotions, however ironic, maybe half, maybe less. Wings nearly invisible, a crucifix hologram, posture held static, petitioning, priest-like, green back, black and red throat, hardly the reincarnated warrior, syncretic Mars. The wars were elsewhere, Donbass, Libya, Afghanistan, elsewhere, far from our kitchen. And then everyone moved. I billowed a tea towel, some Siphnian souvenir, a Polynean sunburst, gently covered the bird mid-air, asked you to open the door. In one motion, he was liberated, flying back to the feeder. I wanted you to love me. I could calm, pacify Mars. I thought I did it for you. Before the war came to us, before I knew we were fighting it.
That's John Hennessy reading from his new book, Exit Garden State, available in the local bookstores and online. You should get a copy. You should also come and hear John this Thursday at the Botel Day Poetry Center at Smith College, where he'll be reading from his book and as well his translations from Ukrainian poets at 7:00. You should definitely be there. The work is just, well, you just heard that, right? I mean, it's moving. It's music within your lines there. It's just beautifully done. Are you finding that the translations that you've started to do is affecting your work? Or is it changing? Or?
I wish it affected it more.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question because working with especially Yuri Andrikovich and Serhii Zhadan, we're also working with other people, but they're such powerful poets and such intelligent poets too.
Exit Garden State. Are you telling Garden State to get out? Are you saying get out of Garden State? What are you saying with this title?
Here. Yeah, yeah.
Is there an
Anabla, right? Let's go to Naples.
Is that what it is? Get out?
No, it means leaving
Garden
State.
Okay.
Yeah. The Garden State.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, both New Jersey and also our state of being, the garden. I mean, that's what poetry is there, right?
Right. It's that old joke about why New Yorkers are so depressed. Because the light at the end of the tunnel is New Jersey. Sorry.
So we're in Massachusetts here. So
I know, right. Notice I have exited, right. But I go back.
Right. You came here to teach.
Yeah.
Right.
22 years ago.
22 years ago. That's a long time. We are almost out of time, so I do want to say John Hennessy, last time. Smith College, Botel Day Poetry Center, Thursday, 7 to 9. Joan, so happy you
Thank
could
you
join
very
us. So
much.
happy for the work you're doing.